The rain poured down as Elena's old car pulled into the circular driveway of the Astor Grand Hotel. She'd been driving for 6 hours straight, her back aching and her eyes tired from focusing on the wet highway. The windshield wipers squeaked as they fought against the downpour, and Elena took a deep breath, looking up at the grand building with its glittering lights. "Just one night," she whispered to herself, gathering her courage. "I deserve to be here just as much as anyone." Elena was a teacher at Pine Grove Elementary, where she taught 3rd grade. She'd been saving for months to attend this educational conference, excited about the new teaching methods she would learn. The Astor Grand was far beyond her usual budget, but the conference had a special rate for educators, and Elena had jumped at the chance. She grabbed her small suitcase from the backseat and made a dash for the entrance. The doorman barely glanced at her as she hurried past, water dripping from her old raincoat onto the polished marble floor of the lobby. The hotel was even more beautiful inside. Huge crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting warm light over plush sofas and exotic flowers arranged in tall vases. Well-dressed people sat chatting, their laughter mixing with soft piano music from the bar area. Elena felt suddenly aware of her wet hair, her simple clothes, and her scuffed shoes. She clutched her conference reservation papers tightly and approached the front desk. Behind the counter stood a tall man in a perfectly pressed suit. His name tag read Thomas, Front Desk Manager. He was helping a couple dressed in designer clothes, his smile wide and welcoming as he handed them their key cards. "Enjoy your stay, Mr. and Mrs. Chen. Please let me know if you need anything at all." When the couple walked away, Elena stepped forward with a polite smile. "Hi, I have a reservation under Elena Reyes. I'm here for the education conference." Thomas looked at her, his smile fading slightly. His eyes moved from her dripping raincoat to her worn suitcase, then back to her face. "The education conference," he repeated, his tone changing. He tapped at his computer without really looking at the screen. "I'm sorry, but I don't see your reservation." Elena frowned and placed her confirmation email on the counter. "Here's my confirmation. I booked it 3 months ago through the conference website." Thomas barely glanced at the paper. "I'm afraid we're fully booked tonight. There must have been some mistake with the conference reservations." "But I have a confirmation," Elena insisted, her voice quiet but firm. "Could you please check again?" A well-dressed couple waiting behind her sighed loudly. Elena felt her cheeks grow hot. "As I said, we're fully booked," Thomas repeated, louder this time. His eyes flicked to the waiting guests, and his smile turned apologetic, not for Elena, but for them. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the Budget Inn across town. It's more," he paused, "suitable for conference attendees." Elena stood frozen, the meaning behind his words crystal clear. She wasn't being turned away because of a booking error. She was being turned away because she didn't look like she belonged. "I don't understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have a confirmed reservation." "I'm sorry, but that's all I can do," Thomas said firmly, already looking past her to the next guests. "Next, please." The couple behind her moved forward eagerly, and Thomas's professional smile returned instantly. "Good evening. Welcome to the Astor Grand." Elena felt invisible as she stood there, clutching her useless reservation. Other guests in the lobby were staring now, some with pity, others with impatience. A security guard began walking in her direction. Fighting back tears, Elena picked up her suitcase and walked out into the rain. Her cheeks burned with humiliation as the doorman, who had ignored her arrival, now hurried to open the door for her to exit. In the parking lot, she sat in her car, rain drumming on the roof as she searched her phone for another hotel. The nearest affordable option was 20 minutes away. "It's just one night," she told herself again, but this time her voice cracked. It wasn't about the hotel anymore. It was about being judged, found wanting, and publicly dismissed. As she started her car, Elena had no way of knowing that this rejection would be the beginning of something far bigger than a simple hotel stay. Elena pulled into the parking lot of the Pinewood Motel, a small, dated place with a flickering neon sign. It wasn't what she had planned, but at least it was clean and affordable. After checking in with a friendly older woman at the reception desk, she dragged her suitcase to room 14. The room was basic but neat, a far cry from the luxury she had glimpsed at the Astor Grand. Elena set her bag down and sat heavily on the edge of the bed, the springs creaking under her weight. She kicked off her shoes and lay back, staring at the water stains on the ceiling. "Get it together," she whispered to herself. "You're here for the conference, not for some fancy hotel experience." But the sting of rejection wouldn't fade. She'd worked so hard for everything in her life. Her job teaching kids who reminded her of herself growing up. The small apartment she had finally bought last year. The respect of her colleagues and students. Yet one look from that hotel manager had made her feel small again, like the poor kid from the east side who never had the right clothes or the right address. Elena got up and unpacked her conference materials, laying out her notes for tomorrow's presentation. She'd been invited to speak about her classroom methods for teaching kids from struggling families. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her phone rang suddenly, breaking the silence of the room. The number on the screen wasn't one she recognized, but she answered anyway. "Hello? Elena? Elena Reyes?" The woman's voice on the other end was smooth and confident, with a slight accent Elena couldn't place. "Yes, this is she. This is your Aunt Vivian, Vivian Martinez." Elena sat up straight, her heart skipping a beat. Aunt Vivian. She hadn't heard that name in years. Her father's sister, the one who had left town decades ago after some family argument that nobody ever explained to Elena. "Aunt Vivian? How did you get my number?" There was a soft laugh on the other end. "I've been trying to reach you for some time, dear. Your father and I may have had our differences, but that doesn't mean I haven't kept an eye on you from a distance." Elena's mind raced. She had vague memories of a tall, elegant woman who used to bring her colorful pencils and books when she was very small. "I've seen your name in the education journals," Vivian continued. "Your work with underprivileged children. I've been following your career." "You have?" Elena couldn't hide her surprise. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything. I'm proud of you. Your parents would be too, if they were still here." Elena felt a lump in her throat. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was in college. She'd been on her own ever since. "Thank you," she managed. "Are you in town for the education conference?" Vivian asked. "I saw your name on the speakers list." "Yes, I'm speaking tomorrow afternoon. How did you know about that?" "I make it my business to know what's happening in this city," Vivian said simply. "Where are you staying? We should meet for breakfast." Elena hesitated, embarrassment washing over her again. "I'm at the Pinewood Motel." "The Pinewood? I thought all conference speakers were staying at the Astor Grand." Elena's voice caught as she replied, "There was a misunderstanding with my reservation." The line went quiet for a moment. When Vivian spoke again, her voice had a different edge to it. What kind of misunderstanding? Something about her aunt's tone made Elena open up. She found herself explaining what had happened, the dismissive looks, the claimed overbooking, the suggestion that she find somewhere more suitable. Vivian listened without interrupting. When Elena finished, the silence stretched for several seconds. "The Astor Grand, you said?" Vivian finally asked, her voice calm but with something hard underneath. "Yes, but it's fine." "I'm comfortable enough here," Elena said quickly, regretting her complaint. "No, it's not fine." Vivian's voice was firm. "Some people need to learn that true quality isn't about appearance." She paused. "Elena, I need to go now, but I want you to be ready tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll send a car for you." "A car? But I have my own." "Just be ready," Vivian said. "And bring everything you need for your presentation. You won't be coming back to the Pinewood." Before Elena could ask what she meant, the line went dead. She stared at her phone, wondering what her mysterious aunt was planning. Outside, the rain had stopped, and a thin moon peeked through the clouds. Tomorrow would be interesting, Elena thought, not knowing just how right she was. Elena woke up early the next morning, her mind still buzzing with questions about Aunt Vivian's mysterious call. She showered and put on her best outfit, a simple navy blue skirt and white blouse she bought on sale last year. It wasn't fancy, but it was professional enough for her presentation. At exactly 10 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text message. "Your car is waiting outside." Elena peeked through the motel curtains and gasped. A sleek black car with tinted windows sat in the parking lot, looking completely out of place among the dusty pickup trucks and family sedans. The driver, a woman in a neat uniform, stood by the back door. "This is crazy," Elena muttered, grabbing her presentation folder and small suitcase. Her heart raced as she locked her motel room and walked toward the car. "Ms. Reyes?" The driver asked with a polite smile. "I'm me. Ms. Vivian sent me to take you to your appointment." "My appointment? What appointment?" Elena asked, confused. Mai simply smiled again. "Everything has been arranged. Please make yourself comfortable." The inside of the car was like nothing Elena had ever experienced. Soft leather seats, bottles of water in a small refrigerator, even a tablet loaded with news and entertainment. As they drove through the city, Elena tried to calm her nerves by rehearsing her presentation points in her head. 20 minutes later, they pulled up in front of a small, elegant building with a discreet gold sign, Renata's. It looked expensive, the kind of place Elena would normally walk past without a second glance. Inside, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair greeted her warmly. "Ms. Reyes, welcome. I'm Renata. We've been expecting you." Before Elena could ask any questions, she was led into a private room where 3 people waited: a stylist, a makeup artist, and a woman holding what looked like designer clothes. "What is all this?" Elena asked, overwhelmed. Ms. Vivian's instructions were very clear, Renata explained. "She wants you to have options today, options to present yourself however you choose." Over the next 2 hours, Elena was pampered in ways she'd never experienced. The stylist, a young man named Raj, worked magic with her hair, transforming her plain bob into a sophisticated style that framed her face perfectly. The makeup artist, Abdana, applied makeup that enhanced Elena's features while still looking natural. "I don't want to look like someone else," Elena had insisted when they started. "That's not what this is about," Renata assured her. "This is about showing the world who you truly are without distractions." The clothing specialist brought out several outfits, not flashy or over the top, but beautifully made pieces in rich fabrics and perfect fits. Elena chose a deep burgundy dress with a matching jacket that made her feel both powerful and comfortable. As Elena looked at herself in the full-length mirror, she barely recognized the woman looking back. It wasn't that she looked like a different person, she looked like herself, but a version of herself with all the confidence and authority she felt on the inside now visible on the outside. "How do you feel?" Renata asked, watching Elena's reaction. "I feel, like me," Elena said slowly, "but the me I always knew I could be." Renata smiled. "That's exactly the point. Now, I believe you have a presentation to give." As Elena gathered her things, she found a small envelope tucked into her new designer handbag. Inside was a keycard with the Astor Grand Hotel logo and a note in elegant handwriting. "Room 1201 is ready for you. Show them who you really are. V." Elena's stomach fluttered with nervous excitement. Was Aunt Vivian suggesting what she thought? Outside, the same black car waited. But this time, when May opened the door, Elena saw it wasn't just a car, it was a limousine. "Where to, Ms. Reyes?" May asked with a knowing smile. Elena took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. The conference wasn't until the afternoon. She had time for one important stop first. "The Astor Grand Hotel, please," she said, her voice steady and clear. As the limousine pulled away from the curb, Elena felt something shift inside her. This wasn't about revenge. This was about standing up and claiming the respect she had always deserved. The limousine glided to a stop in front of the Astor Grand Hotel. Elena took a deep breath, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Through the tinted windows, she saw the same doorman who had barely noticed her yesterday now standing at attention, his eyes fixed on the luxury car. "You ready, Ms. Reyes?" May asked, catching Elena's eyes in the rearview mirror. Elena nodded, smoothing her burgundy dress. "As ready as I'll ever be." The moment May opened the car door, everything changed. The doorman rushed forward, his white-gloved hand extended. "Welcome to the Astor Grand, ma'am," he said, his voice warm and respectful, nothing like the cold indifference from yesterday. Elena took his hand, stepping out with a grace she didn't know she possessed. "Thank you," she said simply, meeting his eyes. For a flicker of a moment, she thought she saw a hint of recognition in his face, quickly replaced by professional courtesy. As she walked through the revolving doors, Elena felt like she was in a dream. The same beautiful lobby spread before her, but this time, instead of feeling small, she felt like she belonged. A few guests glanced her way with obvious admiration. Elena's heels clicked confidently on the marble floor as she approached the front desk. The night staff had changed, but there he was. Thomas, the same manager who had turned her away, now helping an older couple. She waited patiently, watching as he finished with them, his perfect customer service smile never wavering. When he turned to Elena, that same practiced smile was in place. "Good evening, ma'am. Welcome to the Asta Grand. How may I assist you today?" There was not a hint of recognition in his eyes, not a trace of memory from the woman he had humiliated just one day before. "I believe I have a reservation," Elena said calmly. "Room 1201. Thomas's eyebrows rose slightly. Room 1201 was one of the best suites in the hotel. Elena could tell from his reaction. "Of course. May I have your name, please?" His fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was the moment. Elena could feel her pulse in her fingertips. Elena Reyes. She watched as Thomas typed her name, his smile still frozen in place. Then came the slight widening of his eyes, the subtle change in his breathing as he read whatever notes were attached to her reservation. "Ms. Reyes," he said, his voice noticeably different now. "Yes, of course. We have your suite ready." He typed something else, then looked up at her again. This time, his eyes moved more carefully over her face, recognition slowly dawning. He began, then stopped himself. "You were here yesterday." Elena held his gaze. "Yes, I was. You told me you were fully booked. You suggested I try the budget inn because it would be more suitable for me." The color drained from Thomas's face. There must have been some misunderstanding with the reservation system. We've been having computer issues." "I'm sure you have," Elena interrupted, her voice quiet but firm. "But my reservation is in order now, correct?" Thomas swallowed hard. "Yes, absolutely. I'll personally make sure everything is perfect for your stay." His hands trembled slightly as he prepared her keycard, sliding it across the counter along with a welcome packet. "Would you like assistance with your luggage?" "That won't be necessary," Elena replied. "But I would like to speak with the hotel manager." "The real manager." "I am the front desk manager," Thomas said, his confidence faltering. "I meant the general manager. Or perhaps the owner?" Elena said, recalling the note from her aunt. There was more happening here than she understood, but she was beginning to piece it together. Thomas's face went even paler. "The owner is not usually." "Is there a problem, Thomas?" The voice came from behind Elena, smooth, authoritative, and vaguely familiar. She turned to see an elegant older woman approaching, dressed in a tailored suit, her silver hair swept into a perfect updo. "Aunt Vivian," Elena whispered. The woman smiled warmly at Elena, then turned a much cooler gaze toward Thomas. "I see you've met my niece. I trust you're providing her with our very best service." Thomas looked like he might faint. "Ms. Asta." "Yes, of course, absolutely." "Asta?" Elena's mind raced. "Asta, as in Asta Grand Hotel." Vivian linked her arm through Elena's. "Come, my dear, we have much to talk about." "Thomas, send up some champagne to my niece's suite. We're celebrating tonight." As they walked toward the elevators, Elena felt every eye in the lobby following them. "Asta?" she whispered to her aunt. "You're—" "Later," Vivian said with a smile. "For now, just enjoy the look on Thomas's face. It's not every day someone learns such an important lesson about judging people by their appearance." The presidential suite of the Asta Grand took up half of the top floor. Elena stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city lights spreading like fallen stars below. Just yesterday, she had been driving through rain, rejected and humiliated. Now she was here, in a room that probably cost more per night than she made in 2 weeks of teaching. "Do you like it?" Aunt Vivian asked, pouring 2 glasses of champagne from the bottle that a nervous bellboy had delivered moments ago. "It's beautiful," Elena said, turning to face her aunt. "But I think you owe me some answers. You're Vivian Asta, as in the owner of this hotel." Vivian handed Elena a glass and smiled. "I was born Vivian Martinez, your father's sister. I became Vivian Asta when I married Robert Asta 40 years ago." She took a sip of her champagne. "Robert passed away 10 years ago, and I've been running the hotel chain ever since." Elena shook her head in disbelief. "But why didn't you ever contact us?" "Dad never talked about you much, just that you had left and gone east. Vivian's smile faded. She walked to a plush sofa and sat down, patting the spot beside her. Elena joined her, still trying to make sense of everything. Your father and I had a falling out, Vivian explained. I was young, ambitious. I wanted more than our small town could offer. Your grandfather thought I was being selfish, and your father sided with him, she sighed. Pride is a terrible thing, Elena. On both sides. Years passed, then decades. By the time I was ready to reach out, your parents had passed away, and I didn't know how to find you. How did you find me now? I follow education journals. I saw your name on an article about teaching methods for underprivileged students. I recognize your picture. You look so much like your mother. Vivian's eyes grew misty. I've been trying to work up the courage to contact you for months. Then I saw your name on the conference speakers list, and I knew it was time. Elena took a sip of her champagne, letting the bubbles settle on her tongue as she processed this information. So when I called you yesterday about being turned away from the hotel, Vivian's expression hardened. I was furious, not just because you're my niece, but because Thomas has been doing this for some time. I've received complaints that he turns away guests who don't look suitable for the Astor image. She set her glass down with a sharp click. I've been gathering evidence, and your experience was the final proof I needed. You used me to test him, Elena said, unsure whether to feel angry or impressed. No, dear. I arranged for your makeover because I wanted to meet you properly, to reconnect. The confrontation with Thomas was an added benefit, a lesson he needed to learn. Vivian reached over and took Elena's hand. I've watched the security footage from yesterday. The way he treated you was unacceptable. Elena thought about Thomas's face when he realized who she was, and a small, satisfied smile tugged at her lips. What happens to him now? That depends partly on you, Vivian said. I don't believe in firing people who can learn from their mistakes, but I do believe in consequences. A knock at the door interrupted them. Vivian called out, "Come in." Thomas entered, carrying a silver tray with chocolate-covered strawberries. His hands were visibly shaking, causing the tray to rattle slightly. "The complimentary amenities you requested, Ms. Astor," he said, his voice strained. He placed the tray on the coffee table, careful not to meet Elena's eyes. "Thank you, Thomas," Vivian said coolly. "Please, take a seat. We need to discuss your future at this hotel." Thomas perched on the edge of an armchair like a man awaiting sentence. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the room's perfect temperature. "Ms. Reyes is not only my niece," Vivian continued, "but she's also an accomplished educator who specializes in teaching children from diverse backgrounds. Children who, like herself, might not always be treated with the respect they deserve because of how they look or where they come from." Thomas finally looked at Elena, real shame visible in his eyes. "Ms. Reyes, I deeply apologize for my behavior yesterday. It was completely unprofessional and wrong." Elena studied him. The apology seemed genuine, but was it only because he now knew who she was connected to? "Apologies are important," she said carefully, "but they're just words. What matters is how we treat people when we think no one important is watching." Thomas flinched at her words, and in that moment, Elena saw something shift in his expression, a realization, perhaps, that went beyond fear of losing his job. Vivian smiled at her niece, a look of pride on her face. "I couldn't have said it better myself." The next morning, Elena stood behind the curtain of the hotel's grand ballroom, her heart racing. The conference room was filled with educators, school administrators, and even a few investors interested in education reform. From her spot, she could see hundreds of faces turned expectantly toward the stage. Nervous? Aunt Vivian appeared beside her, elegant as always in a navy blue suit. Terrified, Elena admitted, "I've presented at small conferences before, but nothing like this." Vivian squeezed her niece's hand. "You were born for this moment. Just speak from your heart, the way you do with your students." The conference organizer approached them with a wide smile. "Ms. Reyes, we're ready for you now." Elena took a deep breath, smoothed her burgundy dress, and stepped onto the stage. The lights were bright, making it hard to see the audience clearly. She placed her notes on the podium, looked up, and froze. In the front row sat Thomas, the hotel manager who had turned her away just 2 days ago. Next to him were several other hotel staff members. They all looked uncomfortable, clearly there on Vivian's orders. Elena cleared her throat and found her voice. "Good morning. My name is Elena Reyes, and I teach third grade at Pine Grove Elementary." As she began speaking about her teaching methods, her nervousness melted away. This was what she knew, what she loved. She talked about the children she worked with, kids from poor neighborhoods, kids whose parents worked multiple jobs, kids who came to school hungry but still eager to learn. "Every child deserves to be seen," she said, her voice growing stronger. "Not just looked at, but truly seen for their potential, regardless of what they're wearing or where they come from." She glanced at Thomas, who was now watching her with undivided attention. "I teach my students that respect isn't something you earn with fancy clothes or important titles. It's something everyone deserves, right from the start." Elena smiled. "And believe me, 8-year-olds have a strong sense of fairness. They know when they're being judged." For 45 minutes, Elena shared stories from her classroom, practical techniques for engaging struggling students, and the results she'd achieved. The audience leaned forward in their seats, many taking notes. When she finished, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. During the question and answer session, a woman in an expensive suit stood up. "Ms. Reyes, your results are impressive. Have you considered expanding your methods beyond a single classroom?" "I've trained other teachers at my school," Elena replied, "but resources are always limited." "I represent the Wilson Foundation," the woman continued. "We fund educational initiatives in underserved communities. I'd love to discuss how we might support your work on a larger scale." Elena blinked in surprise. "I'd be honored to have that conversation." As the session ended, people crowded around Elena, asking questions, sharing their own experiences, handing her business cards. Through the crowd, she spotted Vivian standing at the back of the room, a proud smile on her face. Hours later, after the networking reception, Elena finally collapsed onto a chair in a quiet corner. Her feet hurt from standing so long, but her heart was full. 3 foundations had expressed interest in her teaching methods. 2 school districts had invited her to conduct teacher training workshops, and a publisher had suggested she write a book about her classroom experiences. "Quite a successful day," Vivian said, sitting down beside her. "How does it feel?" "Overwhelming," Elena admitted. "Yesterday I was just a teacher. Today, people are listening to me like I'm some kind of expert." "You are an expert," Vivian corrected gently. "The difference is that now people can see past the surface to recognize it." Elena nodded thoughtfully. "I saw Thomas taking notes during my presentation." "He was," Vivian confirmed. "That was part of our agreement. Instead of firing him, he's going through a different kind of training, starting with listening to people he might have dismissed before." Elena watched as hotel staff cleared the reception area. Among them was Thomas, helping to stack chairs, work usually reserved for junior employees. "Is that also part of the agreement?" Elena asked, nodding toward him. Vivian smiled. 2 weeks working alongside every department in the hotel, from housekeeping to maintenance. Walking in others' shoes, so to speak. Thomas looked up and caught Elena watching him. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded respectfully to her. Elena nodded back, seeing something different in his eyes now, not fear or shame, but something that looked like genuine understanding beginning to take root. "You know," Elena said, turning back to her aunt, "I think this might be the beginning of something important." 3 months later, Elena stood in the sunshine outside the Astor Grand Hotel, watching as workers installed a new sign above the entrance, the Reyes Astor Educational Center. She could hardly believe how much had changed in such a short time. After the conference, Aunt Vivian had surprised her with an unexpected proposal. The hotel's West Wing, which had been underused for years, would be transformed into a teacher training facility. Elena would serve as the center's director, bringing her classroom methods to educators from across the country. "Are you ready for the tour?" Vivian asked, joining Elena on the sidewalk. Though still elegant in her designer clothes, Vivian seemed softer somehow, more relaxed than when they'd first reunited. "As ready as I'll ever be," Elena replied with a smile. Inside, the hotel lobby was buzzing with activity. A group of teachers checked in at the front desk, their excited voices filling the air. They were the first participants in the center's inaugural training program, 50 educators from underfunded schools across the country, all expenses paid by the Astor Foundation. Ms. Reyes, a familiar voice called out. Thomas approached them, looking different than he had 3 months ago. Gone was the stiff formality, replaced by genuine warmth. His time working in different hotel departments had changed him. The welcome packets are all prepared, and the conference rooms are set up exactly as you requested. Thank you, Thomas, Elena said. It had been strange at first, working with the man who had once turned her away. But people could change when given the chance, and Thomas had earned her respect through his actions over the past months. The teachers from Westside Elementary arrived early, he added. I've already shown them to their rooms. The ones with the city view, as you suggested. Elena nodded appreciatively. Those teachers worked in one of the poorest districts in the state. For many, this would be their first time staying in a luxury hotel. Perfect. Make sure they know about the welcome dinner tonight. As they walked through the transformed West Wing, Elena marveled at how Vivian had brought her vision to life. Classrooms with the latest teaching technology. A resource library filled with books and materials teachers could take back to their schools. A beautiful garden area where educators could share ideas in a relaxed setting. What do you think? Vivian asked as they entered the main training room. It's beyond anything I could have imagined, Elena admitted, running her hand along the smooth wooden table. When I was turned away from this hotel, I never dreamed I'd end up running a center inside it. Life has a way of surprising us, Vivian said softly. Your father would be proud of you. He always believed education was the key to changing lives. Elena felt tears prick at her eyes. Vivian had been sharing stories about her father, helping Elena understand the brother Vivian had loved but lost touch with due to family pride. A young woman appeared at the doorway, looking uncertain. She wore simple clothes and clutched a worn backpack. Excuse me, she said nervously. Is this the Reyes Astor Center? I'm Lupita Diaz from Oakwood Elementary. I'm supposed to check in for the training program. Elena walked over with a warm smile. You're in exactly the right place, Lupita. I'm Elena Reyes. Lupita's eyes widened. You're the Elena Reyes, the one who developed the Community Connection curriculum. Your methods have helped so many of my students. That's very kind of you to say, Elena replied, touched by the young teacher's enthusiasm. Let me show you where to check in. As they walked toward the registration desk, Lupita looked around in awe. I've never been in a place this fancy before. When they said the training was at the Astor Grand, I almost didn't come. I was afraid I wouldn't, fit in. Elena exchanged a knowing glance with Vivian. I understand completely. But this center exists to remind us all that everyone belongs in spaces like this. Everyone deserves respect and opportunity. At the front desk, Thomas greeted Lupita with the same courtesy he would show to any guest. Welcome to the Reyes Astor Educational Center, Ms. Diaz. We're honored to have you with us. Later that evening, as Elena watched the dining room fill with teachers sharing stories and ideas, she felt a sense of completion. The simple woman who had once been rejected at this hotel had found not just vindication but purpose. Her humiliation had been transformed into something meaningful, something that would help countless teachers and students. To new beginnings, Vivian said, raising her glass in a toast. And to seeing people for who they truly are, Elena added, her heart full.